Hello. You got your penis out? No, your razor. You using the right thing? Voice and video. Cool. Q. Yeah, I mean you can oh, someone says the mixer on. Oops. Oh well. You can't hear us. It's a good thing we didn't say anything about you lot. Well, I guess we probably better start then.
No, we're not here.
Shh, no one can see us.
Oh, okay.
Cheers, Malachi.
I need to mute that.
Hopefully they can't hear us now. They might though, I don't know.
I can't hear you now, Pete, if you're talking.
No.
You weren't talking. Oh, that's alright. I can still hear us. Oh well.
Ready for action!
Can't hear us.
Can you not hear us at all now?
Hopefully they can.
Hello, everybody.
Well, that was a fuck up, wasn't it? Hopefully everyone can hear us and see us and all the rest of it.
Brilliant. Seamless, excellent live chat.
I'm not sure what happened there.
Shenanigans from the Agents of Sigmar once more.
Completely forgot to set the audio off in the right places or whatnot and stuff and things. Hopefully everyone can see us and hear us now. Do give us a thumbs up if you can. We've got all the usual reprobates in the house. We've got Malachi, we've got Matt, we've got Mr. Marlowe, lots of M's. Morph.
All the M's.
Some
Malachi, Matt, Morph, and John Grant miniatures.
John
Oh, and Marlowe.
And Marlowe, yep. Hello, everybody. We're here tonight to moan, maybe not. Maybe not. We do like moaning. That's. I mean, that's like one of the 4 facets of hobbying, right? Buying stuff you'll never open, moaning about stuff you'll never buy in the first place. Sometimes hobbying, like painting and assembling stuff, and then occasionally playing, and sort of, I think, in that order of relevance.
Possibly. Going off at a slight tangent already, like we do.
As we do.
Did you notice that they did an Octarius piece today on Warhammer Community, and it was called something about how hobbyists are painting their kill teams or something? What do we think about the term hobbyist? I have no strong feelings about it. I don't think I've ever seen them actually use it in a official capacity before. Maybe they have, I just haven't noticed it. But it just hobbyist just feels like a. I suppose they can't really put Warhammerist, can they?
I guess they're trying to just not legitimize, because that sounds like it's not legitimate. But I guess they're trying to maybe make the role of someone who paints stuff for money more sort of official sounding. I mean, if I'm a hobbyist.
Just paint stuff, presumably. Presumably just paint stuff.
I mean, I don't know how many of the people who painted stuff that they'd featured on that article had, play stuff, or whether they just paint things or not.
Yeah, because presumably if you paint stuff for... Did you say paint stuff for money?
Well, I assume they do. I mean, if they get sent something, they paint it and they put it on their Instagrams and stuff like that. Then they...
I'm just thinking, if you paint stuff for money, surely that's not a hobby, that's a job.
True.
Better than customer, VJ says. Yeah, you're probably right. Fans.
Maliki says they use the hobby word a lot more. I guess they just want to try and make it feel a bit more of a term, I suppose.
Yeah, so Maliki says they use the word hobby a lot. Yeah, I've seen that, and I kind of... That is all right with me. The hobbyist is all right with me, really. I hadn't noticed it, and I just wonder whether people ever refer to themselves as a hobbyist. It's not really doesn't really narrow it down, does it? If you're talking to somebody random on the street. Yes, what's your hobby? Oh yes, I like to hobby.
I'm a hobbyist. Pleased to meet you. Oh, you're a hobbyist. I too am a hobbyist. Yeah, it's kind of like...
Right, we should get together. And you both get together and find one's into flower arranging, and the other one likes painting miniatures. Oh,
this isn't the right hobby. Yeah, I mean, technically, a hobbyist is anybody who does a hobby, isn't it? Has a hobby, and that's like most men, at least. I know women do have hobbies as well, but I do think there's a lot more men have hobbies out there than women do. That could be the children aspect.
It needs to be part of the male psyche, doesn't it? I'm not sure. Women would say they're too busy doing all the things we should be doing.
Sheds or garages or studios or fishing or whatever it might be. Men seem to always need those outlets. I'm not saying women don't. There's lots of women who do, and there's probably lots of women who could do with it who don't get that chance because they are left looking after the kids whilst the men sod off and do whatever it is they want to do. Yeah, everyone should be allowed to have their space.
I don't know what you mean, he says from his studio. We're down the garden.
While the wife and the children bang on the soundproof doors trying to get in, whilst the wolf starts to savage them.
Please say hobby more times. Hobby. Nerds. Yeah, it's called nerds. Let's see how nerds have painted their
nerds
kill teams.
I think nerds is a badge of honour these days. When we were kids and we had to be nerds, that was a trial and a tribulation you had to get through to get where we are now, which is socially acceptable.
Geeks versus nerds. I'm not sure. I'm never quite sure what the difference is.
I think nerds are worse than geeks.
Are they?
I think.
Worse in what way?
More mocked, more picked on, more by those in the more socially prevalent sphere. I don't know, something like that. Maybe I'm wrong. That's not a discussion for today, really.
No, what are we discussing today, Pete?
Today?
All 12 you are watching. Probably our usual 12. Hello, Anthony Boyd's in. Hello, Anthony.
We love every single one of you. It might not comment. So tonight we've got the comment of Warhammer Plus subscription rip-off or worth it?
Rip-off or worth it? Worth it.
And you already posted a video before.
Yeah. So this is going to be a new aim of mine. Each week we're going to try and decide before sort of the end of the week, really, what the Tuesday Night Live will be, and then I'm going to try and record a video which kind of introduces it and discusses it a little bit, and then hopefully people can come here on a Tuesday night and discuss what we're talking about. So the first week, this week's fairly easy choice, I think. Warhammer Plus.
Matt Collins asks, what's it like being a full-blown sellout or GW shill? I mean, I'm looking forward...
It is tough. I'm struggling actually under the weight of the gold-plated Stormcast that they've sent us. Actual gold Stormcast.
I'm really looking forward to all these checks we're meant to be getting at some point. I think some of those comments were because I'd originally marked our video about Warhammer Plus as a paid advert thing. As a thing on YouTube, you can do that, and then it puts a note up saying, this is a paid for thing. And that's not actually true. That was mislabeled because we didn't get paid anything for that. We have been given a month free to review the service, but at the time we hadn't seen any more than that clip that everybody else had seen. So we didn't get anything more than anybody else at that stage.
No, and I think paid stuff has to be you actually get money for it. I think you have to declare that if we've been sent something, that we've been sent it. I don't think we have to declare it every time. We'll get a bit tedious if they send us season 5 of Warhammer Underworld every week. We have to say this is sent to us by Games Workshop 9 months ago. But we have to declare that they have sent it to us. But I don't think we count as being paid if we're not actually getting paid.
I shall be back one moment.
Oh, Roderick's my new best mate. I'm a deceptively good painter. Yeah, thanks, Roderick. They did come out really well, so I'm really pleased with those. So yeah, thanks for that. No, normal service will be resumed. I mean, I think I'm an okay painter. I'm just not a brilliant painter, and obviously, it's kind of one of those things that's a sliding scale, isn't it? Compared with most people, my painting skills are pretty good, but then we all see the amazing top level painting all the time, and your perception of painting skill gets skewed. I think.
So, did you pick up on the comments in there? We've had one from Cannelloni Crusader TV. He says $1.99 value from what he can tell. So we'll be talking about the offerings that's in there. Is it worth $4.99? Is it worth £5? Or whatever it is? Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about now. And I'd like to hear people watching. And if you're watching this now, do comment now. If you're watching this later on, do put a comment down below, and we can maybe pick up on that and have another discussion later on about it.
Yeah, we do try and get to all our comments, despite all the gold-plated Games Workshop stuff that we get sent. You know, we still try to find the time to comment, even though we're busy counting our fivers that we're stuffing into the mattress. 50, sorry, that we're stuffing into the mattress.
That's what we use to prop up the roof on the studio. Is those massive gold statues?
It's basically the insulation is basically £50 notes.
So Morph has already put a very valid comment in right now. He said he hardly considers it a must-buy. Is it a must-buy? What is a must-buy, really, in the grand scheme of things? Anything that's hobby-based is, as far as I'm concerned, not a must-buy.
No, I agree. I mean, to be honest, it's anything hobby-related is. I'm going to say straight away, I probably, if they didn't give away the free miniature, I'd be a lot less interested in this.
Yeah.
But, or if the free miniature was crap, I'd be a lot less interested in it. And I think even though I probably, I don't know what I could even use it for, but the one up in the sort of head or whatever it is, the sniper, the assassin or whatever it's meant to be, it's just beautiful, I think. And bearing in mind that I would consider buying that anyway. I think it makes the rest of the offering worthwhile for me.
Yeah, and I think some things obviously in the hobby are must-buys if you want to do certain things. If you want to paint your models, some kind of undercoat is a must-buy, and if you want to save a lot of time, a spray can is a must-buy. If you really want to get a really good job and you've got the space, some people say an airbrush is a must-buy. Paints obviously are must-buys, and paint brushes are must-buys. Models, though, some are, because you need to have certain models in your army, so some of them are must-buys as far as if you want to play this game, you must buy this thing. Rules. But I mean, any kind of subscription to artwork services and entertainment, that's never a must-buy. Maliki said you can subscribe for less without the miniature. I wasn't aware of that.
No, could you? It says not you can.
Could you? No.
Well, it's interesting. That's an interesting question. It's the funny thing. I don't actually get to watch much TV/YouTube, so I don't know. Without the incentive, I don't know whether I'd necessarily go for it. It seems to us that it's quite good. People are quite interested in content on it, so it may be that we end up watching it and then so that we can then talk about it, because it's an interesting thing for us to talk about. So
maybe we'll do.
It's worth it from that perspective for us.
I mean, it comes out on Wednesdays. We record on Thursdays. We could just record a video of us reacting to the latest episode and then put that up.
Yeah. That might get tiresome quite quickly, but I'd be interested to see. I mean, I'm interested to see what else they make, I suppose, and I guess the only way to make that is to subscribe for a little bit and see.
Now, I mean, one thing is if you pay the annual subscription up front, obviously that makes it 2/12, 1/6 cheaper, because you'll get 2 months free. That means it's like £50, $60, 100 Australian dollars a year. When you take into account the fact that model would normally probably cost 25, and they will appear on eBay, people will be getting them to sell, like Maliki said, but I reckon you'll still be able to get 25 odd quid for that if you don't want it.
Yeah, I reckon. Morphy doesn't think it's have much resale value. I think it might. I know it's a freebie, but I suppose it depends. It's got no scarcity value, but I think people will buy it. People who aren't interested in Warhammer Plus, I think people will buy it. Could be wrong. You'll get people who want the other one to the one that they got.
Yeah, or people who want both.
There are a lot of people who. I'm surprised they don't do a get both miniatures package.
It's very true. You will have people who want both. They'll want to go out and get both, so they will pay 30 quid for it on eBay, because this is, that's part of the hobby. That's the fifth aspect of the hobby, is overpaying for stuff that isn't worth it. We've had a couple of people requesting, and Christoph Vixen, who basically saying all they want is Agents of Sigmar Kill Team content. We will be, new bat reps coming this Friday.
This Friday.
Oh, there is an option to buy the second two, Anthony says, so cool, that's a benefit. But
I noticed that.
I still think there'll be a lot of people who will...
here left over from when we played last week.
I still think there will be magnetised too.
Yeah, they are. I don't know, quite lined it out properly.
Can't get this stuff. There you go, see. So I still think there'll be some resale value in it, maybe not as much, but I still think there will be. Obviously, a lot of people will be paying monthly, and you won't get the model till you've actually paid up the 12 months in that situation. But if you pay annually, you'll get it straight at the start.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. One thing someone did comment the other day was how are we going to be able to watch this thing, and they have confirmed that there's going to be multiple ways of being able to watch it on Fire, on Apple TV.
I'm not going to watch it on Fire.
Android app, Apple app, all that kind of stuff. No Xbox or PS4 or anything, but I guess you could probably use the Xbox browser, because you can watch it in a browser as well. So there's some options around that. I think Maliki commented that he's going to maybe wait a couple of months for the kinks to get worked out and for more content to build up. I mean, that could be a valid, that's just as valid as anything else. It's a question of how long you can be bothered to wait. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of the content appears on YouTube fairly swiftly. I mean, the Hammer and Bolter animation that GW previewed was up on multiple YouTube websites, and you can still find it now, I'm pretty sure.
Can you?
I'm gonna have a quick look. I reckon you can.
Right.
I won't tell what people where if I can. I'll just confirm that you can.
Yeah. I mean, I think that waiting a couple of months is probably a reasonable way to go, just because as the content isn't going anywhere, so it'll still be there when you do sign up. And like you say, I mean, Games Workshop's implementation of these kind of things isn't always the best, or isn't ever the best. So there could be teething trouble, and then you can find out from word of mouth by people like us and in the general population whether the stuff is worth watching.
Yeah.
And then go from there. Subscribe for a month, take it from there. But, in a couple of months' time, I can definitely see a lot of people doing that. That said, an awful lot of people will be hammering down the door tomorrow as soon as you can subscribe.
A lot of people will. And that was one of the things I wanted to talk about, was obviously a lot of people saw that Hammer and Bolter episode and they saw Old Baylight and they were like, this is shit, this is terrible animation, all the fan stuff was much better. Why are they, why do they expect people to pay money for this? And I do think that GW really went wrong with displaying the wrong intro animation to showcase it all, because people looked at that, a lot of people have just assumed that that's what it's all going to be like, and they've used that just as their springboard to say it's all going to be shit and it's not worth the money because it's all going to look like that. But it's obviously not all going to look like. We've seen other clips, amalgamations of other clips from different versions of it, and some of it looks absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, and I think in light of all the controversy, for want of a better word, of them sort of tightening up on their IP and what have you, I feel like they probably needed to deliver something that was like, okay, that's why they've done that. Whereas a lot of people have said, it's not even any better than the people they're closing down. Why should we bother paying for it? Which I can't really comment on because I haven't seen the other people, and I guess those people who were going to say that most of them might have found a reason to say that anyway. But it was a slightly odd choice, I think. I certainly haven't been quite excited about it. Certainly thought, this is more like what I imagined it would be like, if you see what I mean. I didn't think that many of the animations would be for me, and this one has kind of confirmed that's how I feel. I'm a little bit in line with Maliki, which is that I'm expecting the content to be very 40k heavy, and I've always been more interested in the fantasy side than the 40k side, so that's a little bit concerning. I'm hoping the lore videos are more balanced.
I mean, the little clips they showed looked interesting, and I think they've probably got a little bit more. They've got more areas that they can explore in AOS right now because it's so much newer than 40k. 40k has already tons of stuff out there about it all. AOS is still so new, they can really use that to flesh out bits of AOS that they haven't touched yet. And Malachi agrees, well, he doesn't agree, but he says they should have put something better out to tease it, and I kind of feel that's maybe the case. A lot of people have seen that other video and gone, rubbish.
Yeah.
I was just trying to find the Hammer and Bolter trailer, and there's obviously various people like us who put videos out about Hammer and Bolter. One person's put a video out, and the way they've put the cutout of themselves over the picture, it's like they have the perkiest breasts in the world, and I wonder why they've got hundreds and thousands of votes on that one. But yeah, but looking through it all, I can't see it obviously on there, but I'm sure it's probably available in a lot of other places. Because a lot of people would have just screen captured it as soon as they could, and there's no way GW can stop that. So I think it's all going to appear online. One thing that a lot of people sort of commented on in our video about the quality of the animation being shit. Nobody's really thought very hard about what the quality of the rest of the videos are going to be like. They've taken this one and they've said it's all crap based off this one, and then they've said like the fan-made versions are better. Things like was it Hellmore or whatever it's called, Hell's Reach was fantastic. There was the Astartes thing, that was fantastic. Both of those people have been picked up by GW. So it's like, if these people who made these fantastic fan-made pieces have now been given a job and all the resource they need and told do more of this, how is stuff that GW are going to create not going to be fantastic?
Yeah, and it'd be more consistent as well. We had one really good comment which sort of said they were good, but you didn't know when they were going to arrive, and they took forever. Yeah. Whereas now, presumably they're going to have better access to what they need and a regular paycheck to actually spend 8 hours a day working on his animation. So there's going to be more of them, and they're going to be regular, and we're going to get treated to new stuff. They're going to have professional story writers, well, semi-professional story writers, if you want to be rude, creating new stories for them, which in theory should be better than, because obviously there's one thing being a brilliant animator, but it's a whole different ball game being a storyteller. And so they're going to, they in theory, the story should be better and the animation should be better, etc., etc.
Lazarus asks, whose video was that? Which video are you talking about, Lazarus? The Astartes one or the Hell's Reach one? So yeah. Anyway, so I could see that the animation stuff GW is going to do is going to be some more of the old Baelai stuff. I didn't mind it. It wasn't terrible. It's not my favourite type of animation, but it gets a story across, right? And that's what they're wanting to do sometimes, is just try and...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the 40k storytelling has some limitations, and I feel like that didn't make me think any less of that. It was all just, there was this guy and he was really powerful. We shot his arm off, but he was so strong he got up and carried on going, and then we stitched a new arm on and he was still going, and that's kind of like, that's what all the stories seem to be like. Really bad things happen, but they don't die.
It's a bit like when Buck in Ice Age is talking about his encounter in the 3rd or the 4th film or whatever, and then he says, and I died, but I lived. It's just a bit like that. He died, and then he got up again.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't feel like the storytelling was that great. I know it's a classic, iconic story, and those kind of survival things are all part of the 40k universe, but it wasn't a great story. I think with that animation style, I probably could enjoy it if the story was great. But and I have to say, the orc voices, although they're quite funny, they do start to grate after a while. And there were some nice touches Definitely, there were some definitely comic moments like the I mean, it's been quoted a lot, but the bit where they say for the Emperor, they say that a lot. Was amusing.
It was definitely a little poke at themselves. I think they were happy.
Yeah,
they were able to have a laugh at themselves there, which is quite good.
Throwing them dice is throwing out something interesting, which is he thinks that they could be live action on it if they invest a bit more money, much like Netflix did. So he said Netflix was bad for the first year, then they spent all their money on new fancy stuff. He wouldn't be surprised if in a year or so's time they do some live action for the app. That would be interesting. I don't know. Do Games Workshop want to go down that route? I mean, that's almost like that's a proper production company type stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like a whole separate thing. I don't know. I feel like they're gonna because they are doing some live action things, aren't they? Doing Eisenhorn, but I feel like that's going to be. I think they have potential that's going to be with it. I feel like that's going to be shoehorned out. Maybe it will be available on the app as well as more traditional method.
Another thing that kind of, I mean, people don't have to buy this. It's not up to me to convince people that it is worth it or not worth it. We're just here to discuss if we think it's worth it and what people think. But I think the accusation when people say there's not enough on there, but if you're paying 50 quid and paying for a year, you've got a whole year's worth of stuff to come, and you get the free model, and GW giving people who sign up in August a £10 voucher, so it's actually only 40 quid, not 50 quid.
Yeah.
And you get all the other stuff like the app stuff, and you get all the painting tutorials that are going to be coming out, and you get the battle reports. That's a fair amount of stuff. Yes, it's 50 quid, but 50 quid these days doesn't get you very far in most things. This gives you a whole year of stuff that's still to come out. I think that's a pretty bloody good deal, to be honest. It's not like GW can have hundreds of hours worth of videos and stuff ready to go from the minute they hit go.
No.
Because if they do, people will binge watch it in the first month and then nothing will happen for 11 months. I would much rather they start off and go, right, we can do a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit.
Hi, Valentin. Bye, Valentin.
Oh, goodbye. He's still tired from playing his league games until midnight. Ouch.
Some good games now.
He did win, though.
Week.
He did win, so...
Good games. Wonder if the Aussies will get a voucher.
I reckon... I don't know. I mean, they said anybody who signs up in August will get a tenner, but I don't know.
I assume so. Still August down there, isn't it?
So, yeah, I think for all of that, for it to be 40 quid on top of all of that stuff, that's a pretty bloody good deal as well.
Yeah.
Morph says that the painting tutorials and battle reps are next to useless in his opinion. Well, I guess that depends on whether you like watching battle reports or painting tutorials. I'm sure somebody else who enjoys watching the battle reports will find them much more useful.
Roderick says he was born in 1968, so any content is better than he was a kid. It's quite amusing. I was 73. I was born, and yeah, some of the cards. It did remind me a little bit of some of the cards. A part of it reminded me of Captain Pugwash.
There was a little bit of that in places.
Yeah.
Bad Motivator says he's new to the hobby, so access to White Dwarf back issues would be great. That's another thing. Forgot about that. Yeah, you're going to get access to those issues. Morph does say plenty of better of both on YouTube for battle reports and painting. Well, I guess that's subjective because it's what's better. I reckon that the GW battle reports, some of the clips they've shown, are going to have all kinds of fancy overlays and stuff. Are going to be really cool. So, yeah. I
think there are a few better painters out there than Louise. So I don't know how the tutorials will go, but again, they might be, other people's might be better, but these are going to be more regular and, I guess more GW focused. I mean, better subjective anyway, isn't it? But I think they're going to be up there. They're going to be up there for sure.
They're certainly not going to be bad quality. They're going to have good advice. Anybody who's new to the hobby as well will be able to gain something from that, and it's all in one place for them, whereas YouTube, you have to go hunting around. Yes, I know you just type in a box and it comes up, but then you've got to wheedle out the good ones from the bad ones, and as you said in your video the other day, you're generally always paying for something, whether it's some money up front to get something, whether it's advertising, whether it's...
Yeah, I mean, no ads, so every time, I love Zerastro, but every time I go and watch one of his painting videos, I have to sit through ads, and if I get to part way through and stop, and then I have to go back and come back to it half an hour later, I have to go through ads again.
Yeah.
So I won't have to do that with the GW ones. One would hope.
Exactly.
And yeah, we'll see whether they're any good when they come out. But I guess, and the other thing is just a general point, not really, possibly not people here, but people love their brands, as it were. So they will They won't search out these other things on YouTube, but they will watch the Warhammer TV painting videos that are already out there. So they're going to go to these. So for some people, it's perfect because it's just taking it up to the next level. I don't think the painting videos have been as good since Duncan left, and so maybe these will be, restarting that kind of quality.
And I think of that one of the other things as well is.
Video says some of us don't have ads on YouTube. Well, that means you're paying for it. So it's kind of like that's what I was saying.
Unless he means he's got some kind of ad blocker on his browser or something.
Maybe.
That just means he doesn't want to give any kind of income to those poor starving YouTubers who are trying to. Anyway, I'm mucking around. I'm playing. My camera's gone a bit out of focus. I'm not sure why. There we go. It's back again. I think. You could possibly look at each of these things and go, oh, it's not worth it for that, it's not worth it for that. But you have to take them all in one package. You are getting the model, you're getting that £10 back, you're getting animations of varying styles and degrees of quality, you are getting battle reports, you are getting the Lore Master stuff, you are getting the paint videos, you are getting access to the YouTube, the White Dwarf back catalogue. To me, that doesn't seem like a bad deal for a £5 a month or £50 for the year.
No, and it may turn out that it is terrible value, in which case everybody will stop subscribing and then it won't last very long.
Exactly. We've already had a few people saying that GW will be bankrupt in a year and it'll all be gone, but you know what, they've made profit hand over fist for the last 10 years, so I'm willing to bet that this is probably going to be a fair success.
Yeah, I would think so.
So, yeah.
I have no idea how much it would have cost them to set this up and make the animations and things.
And that was another thing, in that a lot of people were going, oh, this person's was much better and that person's was much better or whatever. But it's like GW aren't a get out of the way, stupid notification thing. GW aren't an animation or a thingy house. That's not their speciality. So it's going to be something that's going to take them time to build up and work on. And they've probably been working on this for the last 18 months. So there's no telling what kind of stuff's going to come out in the near future.
BJ is happy to pay, we should say, he definitely is, because he's one of our patrons. He's happy to pay YouTube content producers on both YouTube Premium and Patreon. So thank you very much, BJ. Yes,
we are
you are one of the good guys.
I was mostly joking when I was sort of going that one. I was just being a typical knob end, because that's my thing.
It'd be interesting to know, and I don't suppose we ever will, Louise, I don't know whether she had a YouTube channel before. I think she might have been a GW employee, I can't remember. But it'd be interesting to know whether she feels she could make more doing it on YouTube or doing it for GW. I'm guessing Duncan thought he could make more money going alone.
I don't know how Duncan's doing these days. I mean, he's got quite a following.
Yeah. Whereas I guess, I mean, maybe they came, it's just entirely speculating now, maybe they came to him and said, we want to do this painting masterclass, are you going to do it? And he said, yes, if you give me a pay rise. And they said no, and he said, right, well, bugger off then.
Very, very possible. I mean, he's got his own, the DuncanRhodes.com website now and the YouTube channel. I'm not sure how many followers he has on YouTube now, but his videos always seem to have a lot of followers. He currently has over 200,000 subs. Now, that's amazing considering he started, less than 6 months ago?
I think it's longer than that now.
Yeah, maybe.
Duncan?
Yeah.
Duncan, yeah, I think I think it might even be more like 18 months.
Well, I don't know, because that would have been the start of lockdown. No, I think it's a year. I think because he released a video entitled "From the Ashes," which was released on February. So okay, it's getting towards 18
I think because didn't he stop just before Christmas and then he had to wait 3 months. He'd obviously had a NDA type thing, or a gardening leave type thing where he couldn't make any videos.
Could be.
And I feel like he
still 18 months, and he's gone up to 202,000. I mean, I don't know how much that's netting him in income, but it's got to be a decent amount. He's also doing his website thing, so he is doing his own version of things. And
did you just mention his paints? He's got a new range of paints out.
New range of paints.
I've just bought a load of scale colour paint, so I'm keeping away. But yeah, and he's called it 2 thin coats, which is brilliant.
I'm not even sure how we got onto the subject of Duncan Rhodes, but there are lots of other different providers out there and stuff. This GW one, I don't know.
Malachi's asked a good question, which is what would make it auto subscribe. For you, I don't know if it's just a general question to everybody in the chat, so do feel free to stick down your comments as to what would make it auto-include for you. But Pete, I mean, I feel like you're almost there anyway, but what would...
I am still a bit on the fence about it. I probably will dump 50 quid on it, but when I actually think about what I'm going to use, I'll probably watch the animations. One of the key things I'm kind of hoping is that because I'll be able to use the Apple TV app, I'll be able to expose my children to those animations, assuming that they're of a suitable level for their age. I know that the Hammer and Bolts one we watched was supposedly a 15, but my 9-year-old watched that without giving a shit. So he then went outside and beat the dog to death with a hammer. But anyway, I'm hoping that the kids might find that interesting. That might interest them into maybe watching some of the other bits on there, and that might entice them in more, perhaps. I'm not sure what there is on there that would make me go, I'm definitely buying it now. Everything on there I've seen is just like, it's nice to have, but for me, my hobby isn't so much Games Workshop games anymore as this channel. So
yeah. So if they offered we'll come round and help you make videos service, then we'd be auto subscribe.
Yes. Yes.
I think for me it's going to rest on, and you can't really tell this without subscribing. But if the stories are good and the shows are good, then I would watch it. And I don't think there's much they could offer that would make me subscribe. Unless it was like £100 worth of miniatures, then it would be worth it. But I don't think there's much else I want. I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I think, I definitely want that. Sort of a show a week devoted to the new Old World game that they're bringing out. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
Or actually, I tell you what would be quite interesting, a kind of sneak peek section where they show you stuff that's coming, so you can watch that. And I guess that's all just part of their marketing thing. So it's kind of almost like you're paying them to market stuff back at you. But perhaps not the best idea. Although some people would argue and have argued on our comments that the whole thing is just getting people to pay for marketing.
Yeah, some people are saying it should all be free because it's all marketing. I just think you don't really know how to function in the real world, do you? But anyway, that's a whole different argument.
But that would be sort of interesting if you could get. I mean, it would be all sport on the internet anyway, but it'd be interesting to get an idea, and perhaps sort of documentaries and things about the design process, because the design process of the miniatures is, I know you can find it out, but it's fairly opaque. The design process of their games is pretty opaque as well. There was a really interesting shut up and sit down video they did. They did a whole hour documentary, I think, on how Twilight Imperium was made. And it was really interesting, and they talked to all the designers about the creative process and all that kind of stuff. I'd love to sort of take a game, if they did a game from concept to completion. It would be really interesting. They could do a whole series. It could be like a Netflix series.
One thing
these ones where they go behind the scenes at football clubs. Something like that. That Games Workshop, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, Morpheus put a thing on it saying interviews with sculptors and rules writers and stuff like that would be quite cool. I agree. I would quite like to see that kind of stuff. A little behind the scenes at GW. Obviously, they have to be careful what they show because they don't want to give stuff away to competitors and things like that. But yeah, that kind of thing would be quite interesting for me. Having said that,
they do that. They did do that on their podcast, and I never watched or listened to them. So I'm talking bollocks really. But
well, I think if they make it easier to get to, like putting it on the Apple TV and stuff like that, I would be just as likely to sit down and instead of putting Netflix on and putting something on with that, putting on a battle report or something like that, because things like that are going to be easier to get hold of, whereas if you want to go on YouTube and things, it's not as easy. And I know they're very close in terms of difficulty level. They're not particularly difficult, but it's a bit like the Amazon model, right? You go on Amazon, you want to buy something, you literally don't even have to try to buy things off Amazon. They made it that easy, and I think that's what Games Workshop are going to do. They're going to do that same thing. They're going to make it so easy to get to. People will go to that more than maybe some of the content online. They are a bit late to the game, and that might cause them an issue, but I don't think it will, because they can do things like throw free models at people. Limited edition models, which is something people are always frothing for.
Lazarus said all art tokens for the Gores and Fast Riders will get him to sign up.
Oh yeah, that's true.
No, I also feel like the podcast, and sometimes they were obviously advertising, because they brought in a designer of the game they just released. So I always felt like I don't need to listen to that, because it's just literally more of what I've been reading anyway.
Yeah.
And I feel like, no disrespect to the designers, but designers of games and even sculptors probably aren't always going to be the most interesting people to listen to. Whereas when it's done by a professional kind of documentary maker, they can interview them, take the key bits out, and then narrate it and put footage over it that makes it more appealing and interesting.
It's that kind of thing that you can. I mean, I find sometimes I can watch videos online of people doing a documentary on the process of making paper clips or something, but it's just the skill comes in slicing that stuff together, and you can make anything incredibly interesting or really fucking dull. And I think the people to make it interesting aren't necessarily the people who were doing it before, because they were just hobbyists, they were just game designers or whatever, so they didn't really have that skill in making those things.
Yeah, very much so.
And another question further up, Tom Ryan says it's shady that we can't download the app or look at an FAQ about the service and it's live in 2 days. To me, that doesn't surprise me because it's GW, but I do wonder what questions you have unanswered that you don't know yet. Because I found most of it.
Yeah, shady. I think, I don't know. Games Workshop they seem to be reasonably incompetent with this stuff, and I think a lot of things that people say, this is not having a go at you, Tom, but they describe things as shady, and I think there's something that's dodgy or whatever. I think it is just literally half the time, almost like Pete said, a lot of people are just hobbyists who've ended up being promoted into these roles. Right? Okay, you've worked in our shop for a long time, you love our games, right? You're in charge of Warhammer Plus now. What? And so they almost seems to me like they're finding out the pitfalls on the fly.
It's a bit like
when they released their app.
It's a bit like when because they got John to do Underworlds, didn't they? And he'd never done a game design before. He was never a game designer.
Yeah.
And they got him to do that. To me, it seems insane that they've decided, okay, we're going to build the most competitive model board game type thing, ever. That's going to be our key. We're going to make the most competitive one ever. Who do we get to do it? Do we get somebody who's got 30 years of game building experience, or do we pick this other guy? No offence to John, he did a good job, but he freely...
He was on secondment, wasn't he, from somewhere? He got a secondment from whatever part of the retail sector he was in, which is, somebody else has talked about this elsewhere, but it's a great way of, it's an unusual way now of running a company. It's quite nice for the employees, I guess, that they've got an opportunity from wherever they are in the company. They've got an opportunity to end up in the design studio, which I'm guessing a lot of people want to do. And so, whereas I think most companies now would go out and say, right, well, we need a professional game designer to design this new section for this game, so we'll advertise for that. So yeah, it's quite nice, but it's unusual, and I kind of feel like perhaps some of the things that they mess up are partly to do with inexperience, which is possibly inexcusable considering the size of the company they are. But having worked for a large company on IT projects, albeit a long time ago, people often don't think about what they're doing.
It's basically
until it hits.
It's basically Hanlon's razor, isn't it? Don't attribute to malice what can adequately be explained by stupidity, and I think some of it does just come down to ineptitude and stupidity on GW's part. Some of it is intentional, I think, especially with some of their rules release stuff where they want to keep games under wraps, because they are good at pumping the hype train. They are very good at that.
Pumping the hype train.
Pumping that hype train. But I think, they have answered a lot of questions. I'm eager to find out, Tom, what your questions are that you don't have answered, to see if they're things I just haven't considered. But to me, it all seems pretty straightforward. Tomorrow, they're going to release the apps. You'll just be able to go online, and they said it's linked to your Warhammer account, so it's the same one you log in to buy stuff from. You just go in there and set it up. There isn't
a central kind of page, is there, that you can go to and find all the answers?
That is true. Maybe. I don't think
which they are quite often bad about.
Yeah.
It has to be said.
I mean, the Underworld's website didn't
even when they have FAQs, they don't always put them all in the same place.
Yeah, there is that.
I can sort of they could do a repository of information rather than read through these articles and listen to this video, and it will tell you what you need to know. It probably isn't ideal.
They tend to sprawl a bit with their websites and things. Like there's a website out there where you can find the rules for Fireteam and you can find the rules for Bladeborn. I don't think they've actually officially announced either of those anywhere or given any kind of indication of them, but people can already download the rules.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going on, guys? I think a lot of it just comes down to lack of planning.
Bad Motivator mentions that the quality of the stories will be key, and talked about the classic Doctor Who episodes that they found, the missing episodes, and that they were animated. The animation was a bit rubbish, but the stories were great. I haven't seen those, but yeah, that is that kind of thing. If you've got a good storyteller, the animation almost doesn't matter. So, you know, because the old classic Watership Down, the animation's a bit ropey now, but it doesn't matter because the story's been brilliant.
Scared the shit
and
out of me.
absolutely terrifying.
Fucking terrifying. I remember watching that shortly after one day, and my parents were talking, should we get a pet rabbit? No! I've seen what those fuckers do. I'm not going near the fucking rabbit. So,
I actually read it just before Christmas last year. And it's a really, I mean, I've read it before, a long time ago, but it's a really great book. And it isn't as traumatising as the film. The film is far worse, I think, because it's visual.
yes.
But the
Rabbits
in fact,
covered in gore.
they could just rewrite Watership Down and set it in the 40k universe and animate it, and that would be bloody brilliant. I mean, they could get away with that quite easily.
Yeah.
Like a kill team of rabbits goes out into the wilderness, and goes from there. It's in fact, I'm going to go away and write it. 40k fan fiction.
Pitch it to GW. Warhammer Ship Down.
Yeah, that almost works.
Yeah, it does. Nearly there. So I guess getting back to the crux of, is it worth it? Do we think that it's worth it? And to revisit that argument that people make that it should be free because it's advertising. I mean, this kind of shit's never going to be free by anyone, is it? GW are one of the first to do something like this, but when you look at other things that are less maligned than GW, such as Mini Wargaming, Duncan Rhodes, Midwinter Minis, you know, any of these other fan-made sites, they all charge you money to get all their content. It's all behind a paywall still, and no one says, fucking Duncan Rhodes, what a cunt, he doesn't give me all this shit for free. Why the fuck not? What an arsehole. He should rely on my charity and do it all out of the goodness of his own heart. What the fuck? No, they're not. They're not going to, are they? GW aren't either, because they have shareholders. They've got to make money. That's how it works, people.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, it's like when we, you know, obviously we are internet behemoths, and when we went to Patreon, however many years ago that was now, we got people saying that we're selling out.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
we just want some kind of reward.
No,
something.
we're really not.
No. So we can stay on YouTube and do it all for free.
Yeah.
And then we will probably give up.
Yeah. Well, it should be nice, but to be able to just do it and you know, but that money has been invaluable to the channel. So thank you very much, everybody who supported us over the years, whether you're still a supporter or have been a supporter. Then thank you. I wouldn't be in this shed now or studio now if it wasn't for you guys.
Exactly, and we wouldn't be here talking about it now. And you know, a lot of the people GW are hiring specifically to do all of this Warhammer Plus stuff, wouldn't have a job without this channel happening. You know, without them doing this thing.
Warhammer Plus, not us.
Yeah, Warhammer Plus. Yeah, they would. These people wouldn't be getting hired to do these things. The guy who created Hell's Reach, he wouldn't have been hired to become a permanent member to do animations. The guy who did Astartes.
I guess people would say, well, he probably wasn't given much choice because he was probably told either he had to close down and go work for Games Workshop. But then that is that might be true, but at the end of the day, he was. If he was just making his own cartoons about his own creation, then they'd get a fraction of the views.
He'd get, I would hesitate to say, probably near fuck all. Because he'd be like, I've done this comic about this animation about things, and the animation would look cool, but it wouldn't have that fan base.
I've done this animation about rabbits who are really violent.
Exactly.
You know, people wouldn't have watched it. But again, you know, so it may be really good, but at the end of the day, it's based on GW IP, and I think, as I said in a little intro video, whether Games Workshop tighten up on that IP or not, or you know, remains to be seen. But it's their IP, and it's always been out there that if you base something on it, you're always running that risk that you're going to get closed down. That's just inevitable, because at some point they come and say, look, sorry, we don't want you to do that anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. It's their IP. They've spent a long time doing this kind of stuff, and they can't just let anybody just start doing stuff, because if they let one person, even if they think it's good or they like it, they can't let that person do it, because if they let one person do it, other people can do it, and it sets a legal precedent, and then they lose their IP. So they have to protect it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know people have said, "Oh, they shut these sites down, and this stuff's not available anymore." I mean, the Astartes stuff is still available, and then they went and gave the bloke a job. I mean, and yet people call them bastards for doing this. It's like, I don't know what you're going on about, but I don't see how this isn't a win for everybody. GW get an amazing, highly motivated, highly talented person to do animation work for them, and that guy gets a job doing what he loves. How's that a bad thing for anybody? The only person
now we have to pay for it, Pete.
But that's it. That's the only, And if these people who are saying it's not worth it for the money, maybe they would find it helps them see it in a positive light if they look at it that their £5 a month is just going to the guy who did the Helmore stuff, or the guy who did the Astartes stuff.
Which they might have paid him anyway when he was doing his Patreon.
Yeah, he had like 2,000 Patreon supporters, so they were happy enough to give him money on that, but they're not happy to give it to GW to pay this guy and produce this content anyway.
That's because they're taking their cut. But I mean, they're entitled to take their cut because he based it on their stuff. As Throne and Die says, the whole thing is like the old Transformers business model, which is like a whole range of cartoons based on toys. Absolutely, exactly. Pokemon model.
There was G.I. Joe, there was Pokemon, there was so many different things. This is not new. And I mean, when I was a kid, if someone had told me that there were, animations and stuff of the quality we have now for Games Workshop stuff, I would have wet myself. And somebody else commented further up, they were born in the 60s, so anything's better than what he had when he was a kid. And it's fantastic. And I still can't see any problem with the value of what GW were offering. I actually thought when they started talking about it was going to be like a tenner a month. I was thinking, no, I'm just not interested for 10 quid a month.
Yeah, me too.
And then they said it's a £5, and I thought, actually, that's not bad. I was quite happy with that. And I think a lot of the noise coming out of "this is rubbish" is just that camp of "I hate GW, GW is bad," which is frankly
meanwhile stuffing their basket full of Imperial Guard miniatures or whatever.
Exactly. and to me, anybody who's just going to come with the point of view of GW are horrible because they just want to make money. Well, they're a fucking company with shareholders, of course they want to make money, or they'll just go bust. Or the whole other opposite point of view, they're putting all this stuff behind a paywall. It's like, well, again, got to make money, shareholders, blah blah blah. Or just GW bad because they changed this game that I like. Well, they never made you stop playing the old game. Just keep playing the old game then. I feel all these people are going to hate whatever GW do, whatever GW do, and it's not worth actually engaging.
And then they'd say, we'll just say whatever GW do is fine.
I mean, we don't. We have proof of that.
No, we don't. I mean, if Warhammer Plus turns out to be rubbish, I'd like to think we'll say so.
Yeah, I would definitely like to think I do. I mean, we've made bad comments in the past about how they've handled Underworld stuff. Yeah. How they've handled the Cursed City. The first version of Kill Team, we said, no, this is awful in the end. We don't like playing it. All these kind of things. Yeah. And we've said when we don't like it. The fact is they haven't done a lot that we haven't liked. Maybe that makes us fanboys. But you know what? I mean, this is the problem these days. You can't say, I like this company. You're immediately derided by all the people who hate that company for not really very many good reasons.
It's almost like you can't be one or the other. You can't think that some of the things the company do are good and some of them aren't. You have to be all in or all out.
But it's funny that most of the people who are moaning and bitching about it, they're still watching all the videos and watching to see what's going on. It's like, you're not really out, are you? You're still in, and you're still going to buy it all. You just want to bitch and moan a bit about it as well, because you want to have your chance to...
Well, you get people who are the Underworld things. I haven't played this game for 4 years, blah, 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 blah. I was like, well, what are you still doing here?
Yeah. I stopped playing at the end of Season 1. Fuck off then. Go into the groups of where you have played stuff. It's fine.
You're very sweary tonight, Pete. This is normally a very family show. You're very sweary tonight. Is there something you need to share with us? Are you okay? You're all right,
I'm very bored with hearing people.
Sorry. I'll see you later.
Fuck off. I'm just very bored of hearing a lot of people moan about something they just don't need to be involved in, and with no really good reason on it either. Because
I feel like a Tuesday Night Live about positivity is in the offing. I haven't quite got my thoughts down on it yet, but I want to do one about being positive.
Yeah.
So that in the next couple of weeks maybe. See what else GW bring out. They keep dropping stuff on us.
Yeah. Morph says, why would you have a YouTube channel about something if you didn't like it in general? That is very true. I mean, we do at the minute. Our channel has been mostly built around Underworld, and I still do think that Underworld is one of the best games GW have ever made.
I think so.
I won't lie.
I'm a little bit cool on Underworld at the moment, but I think I'm in a bit of that situation where I just need to play it again. I remember how good it is.
I'm in the same boat. I was getting finding it I'm finding it a little bit, but we're in that doldrum stage at the end of a season, which always gets us.
Yeah.
And then they release the next season, and suddenly it's all exciting again.
That's a funny one, isn't it? Because I've been largely put off by the fact that the release schedule was so punishing. And then, I've still found myself wanting them to tell us about more stuff they're going to release. So I'm very inconsistent there. But I almost just feel like I want to, even though some of the Chasm games are great, and I think the warbands are good, I almost feel like I want to just draw a line under the last 18 months because of COVID and whatever. Hasn't been a great time for Underworld, and just look at Season 5 and say, right, we're going to take this and we're going to start again and we're going to go.
Yeah.
We're kind of stuck in limbo at the moment where we don't quite know where we are. And so there's part of me that doesn't want more warbands at the moment because I can't cope with the ones we've got. But so I'm not quite sure. I'm a bit up for the with Underworld, but I'm sure if I start playing it again, I'll enjoy it. But we have old Kill Team here to occupy us at the moment, which I'm really enjoying. I'm enjoying the slight increased flexibility that you have with Kill Team over Underworld.
Yeah, I just love the fact that, I mean, there are so many options available in the compendium. There are so many different kill teams that I've looked at, and I just think I'd really like to do that. I'd really like to do that. I'd really like to do that. It's reignited my interest in playing that game. And I think we always get to around the summertime, August-ish time, August, end of July, August, September-ish, where we get a bit antsy about other things, and we've done this in the past with other games.
I think September is almost like my New Year.
It is
you have your New Year's resolutions, and you kind of have new ideas, and you kind of take stock over Christmas. It's almost a bit like that with the summer, and the summer, especially because the kids are off, and I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I get much less time to do stuff, and they're around all the time, and I hate them. But then in September they go back, and I've suddenly got this time to think about what I want to do, and it's kind of implement change, and so I should be getting divorced in the autumn. No, and implement change, and take ideas I've had over the summer to fruition. So anyway, enough about me. I would like to pick up something Tom said ages ago, which is he thinks the price can be appropriate if it's regularly updated, which sounds like it will be. Yes, I think every Wednesday we're going to get new content.
Warhammer Wednesdays.
I don't know if it's going to be new animations. I think it's going to be new animation and extra kind of GW staff content, I think. But they should have done animated stuff on Netflix, HBO and Apple to grow the hobby. That's a really interesting idea, because this is quite insular, isn't it? Nobody who doesn't know about the hobby is going to pay money for this thing, for Warhammer Plus, because they don't know anything about it. And they probably could do more generally released Transformers type cartoons to bring people in. I mean, I'm sort of amazed, and I don't know whether, I feel like I've seen an animation somewhere on the line for it, but I'm sort of amazed they haven't tried to animate the kids' books that they did for it, because I think they would make quite good, the ones I read anyway, I think they would make quite good animations, cartoons, and they could show those on things like Netflix. And that will get people interested, and bring people into the hobby. Maybe
I think they're probably a little cautious about going into the world at large outside of the hobby sphere, because they've attempted it a few times in the past and it's been crap. But I think they are becoming much more of a general household name, even amongst those who aren't in the hobby sphere, because of the PC games. A lot of people came into it because they like the PC games and they come into it that way, and I think they will start to bleed out into, as VJ's just said, content will bleed out of Warhammer Plus. I do think that it will start to become more household names. I know I've had multiple conversations at work these days with people, and they've been aware of it because either they were involved when they were a kid, or they've stopped doing it recently, or they're still involved as an adult, or they've just seen it, or they've heard about it, or they've seen the shops and things like that. And I think they are just becoming a bit more of a household name. And show me another company that's done that on a worldwide scale to the same success GW have. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons is about it, right? And that's where GW started to make their name. But that's it, really. I mean, people know the term Dungeons and Dragons, but they don't know the company that made Dungeons and Dragons or any of the rest of it. So
no. Pokemon, that's slightly different.
Yeah, but that sort of started out with the computer games, and then it became the cartoons, then it became the actual card games, stuff like that. So I would definitely love to see this become a more household name thing.
Lots of people saying here that it will probably be licensed out to the various extra little subscriptions you can do on your Amazon Prime or whatever. So yeah, I could definitely see that happening. Lazarus said, people like to moan in the UK, it's something of a national pastime. Yeah, but we're funny though, because we can also put up with an awful lot without moaning.
Like our current government.
The old Victoria Wood sketch of the two people having sex in the train carriage. Which nobody says anything about until they light up afterwards. Excuse me, this is the non-smoking compartment.
It is.
So we passive aggressively as a nation are pretty passive aggressive, but we do like
we do like a good moan every now and then.
And
another thing we forgot about. Another thing
get on with it.
We do. Sorry? Yeah. Another thing I forgot about is that £5, $6, 10 Australian does get you. Is it gets you some special access at events they do as well. So that's just another facet to the whole thing. When you look at all of that, and you look at the fact that the animations are going to be much more varied, I think, in the future. They're not all just going to be like that Baelai episode. But the good thing about the Baelai episode is that kind of animation is much more accessible to children. I know it says it's a 15, but I still don't think it's that much of a 15. Because of that,
all the kids need therapy.
You know, all of those things that they're giving you for that £5, $6, $10 a month, or 50, 60, 100 a year, just screams like it's really good value. Assuming, like Tom says, you know, that they keep updating it. Obviously, that goes without saying. If they don't keep updating it on a weekly sort of basis, then it's shite. But
Tom's looking at, so he's just looking at the D&D explosion. I don't quite know what you mean there, unless you just mean how D&D has become increasingly popular in the last 5 years. Well, I had a little thought earlier, just reminded me. I'm sure they haven't done this, but they could team up with Cubicle 7 and get like a Critical Role team in and do Soulbound or Wrath of Glory RPG things and put that on the channel.
Yep.
I don't know how many people watch it, but Critical Role is phenomenally popular for reasons I don't quite understand. And so, but I could see that totally working for a large portion of GW fans. So,
I think the thing here as well is to get something that's available to non-GW fans as well, and I think those animations will definitely help that. And Wolf, yes, I know that you're not going to get any events in Australia. I'm sorry, you're not going to get that bit, but you'll get all the other stuff. So you can't have it all.
Just Critical Role, just going back to that, I think that is watched by people who never ever played or had any interest in D&D beforehand. So I don't know whether that might be a route in. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure I'd watch it, but people do.
Well, it's one of those things that if they can get someone who's sort of a semi-famous householdy name kind of person, a recognised face, and they get them to do this thing, some people will watch it just because it's got them in.
Wolf and Gaz said it could be a good watch if they get the story of the players right. Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be spot on, hasn't it? Because it's a really hard to do. A friend of ours streamed one of his D&D sessions, and it made me realise how hard it is to do.
Yeah, you can't just stick a camcorder on the wall and expect magic. You've got a lot of stuff to do to make that.
We've come a long way since then, though.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Now, I mean, our base question still stands at the top of this. Anybody watching now? Anybody watching this later on? Anybody still watching this even? There's 19 of you out there still, so thank you all for tuning in.
Ooh,
the question still is it worth it or not? I'm still waiting for somebody to give me a really good example of why it isn't worth it. As in, here's a reason why nobody should buy it forever and ever. Because I can still find too many good reasons that all add up. I mean, the model alone, that knocks 20 quid off the value of it. The 10 quid voucher, you're looking at a 20 quid subscription for the year. Tell me that all that other stuff isn't worth 20 quid for the year. I can't see that. I can't say it isn't really.
Sorry, I'm replying to a comment.
So, I'm quite happy for someone to tell me I'm wrong and to say, it's not worth it because. But given that they have the animators from the other YouTube channels that they've done, and that they've got them involved, we know that there's going to be some really, really nice animation work coming out. They've previewed some of it. We've seen bits with the Blood Angel guy with the Terminator arm. We've seen other bits from other things. I'm really, really excited and really looking forward to seeing what other kind of crazy animations they bring out. And knowing that they've got the guy from the Starties involved, his work was phenomenal. I could watch his stuff all day, and now he's a permanent employee there, so they're going to be cranking out some absolutely amazing animations, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think if providing at least 2 of the channels that shows are worth watching on a regular basis, then I think it's worth it. Yep. If none of them are any good, then it's not. And I put that in addition to the lore stuff and the painting mascots, so I wouldn't pay for those separately even with the freebies. But if a couple of the shows are engaging and make me want to watch them, make me want to watch what's happened, like the I'm not sure they're necessarily as good, but the Disney What If, the Marvel What If cartoons are, I probably wouldn't. My life wouldn't be less rich for not having ever seen them, but I did enjoy them, and I would definitely, I'm looking forward to when the next one comes out. So if they do something, a couple of shows on that level of instill that in me, then I would think it was worth it, and not a rip-off.
Yeah, definitely. And
sorry, did I say something wrong?
I was just shutting my window. Sorry. I agree, and I just think, obviously, if you don't think it's worth it, you don't have to buy it, and you can voice your opinions of why you don't think it's worth it. But it hasn't got to be a good reason, to be honest. You can just say, I don't want it. I don't want to pay £5 a month for this stuff. That's absolutely fine. But I feel like
these things are all relative. I mean, to me, the amount of people, Wolfman Gaz just put this in my mind, talking about his Sky subscription, the amount of people pay to watch football, countless amounts of football, the people pay that per month. This seems like an absolute bargain to me. I quite like football, but the amount of money it costs you to watch it is phenomenal, or can be phenomenal. So I consider it to be phenomenal.
Tom Ryan says the AOS RPG is gorgeous and uses really elegant dice system that feels like a GW game. Get the starter.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought you were saying there was a YouTube channel playing it. I've got the game, but I've done some videos on it. Back in the archive, but it is absolutely gorgeous, and I don't know whether I've got the time but I really want to play the new campaign that's coming out. I can't remember what it's called, but the one that's I can remember nothing about it. My mind has gone completely blank. But the one that's set in the world, I can't remember. Sorry. I really like it. It's a really good system, and it's much better. I think I mentioned this last week. It's much better than, well, not much better, but it's much more modern than Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, because Cubicle 7 published both, and it's a much more dynamic, modern system. The other one is kind of like they try to update the old system. I don't think it quite works in the same way. This is all fresh and new, and I really like it.
Morph says
my mind has gone completely blank on that campaign.
I'll let you think about it for a minute. Morph says that video content alone isn't really enough to sell any specific service these days, given how easy it is to see it in other ways. Partially true. I mean, you're not going to be able to see Hell's Reach or Hell's whatever it was now. You're not going to be able to see the Astartes stuff because they hide the people. So you're going to have to, if you want to see that stuff. And I think GW are going to crack down on the really high quality stuff because they obviously want to protect their IP and they want to protect their investment. So maybe, you won't be able to get animations as easily as you used to be able to on YouTube and stuff. But then that depends on how much you care about that kind of thing. A lot of people might not care about that kind of thing. There is the other stuff, and at some point there are going to be people who are just going to go, I'm not interested in the videos, I'm not interested in the model, I'm not interested in the painting stuff, I'm not interested in all that. It's like, cool, if you're not interested in it, you don't have to buy it then. But that doesn't mean it's not good value for most people. It's just not good value for you.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest problems of the modern condition, that everybody feels the need to tell other people when they don't like something.
Yeah.
And actually, you can just not say it.
Yeah.
Because we don't need to know.
Yeah. Or you can just say...
the thing we're passionate about, the thing we like, the thing we get enjoyment out of, the thing we're looking forward to. We don't need to know that you think it's shit.
Yeah, and
I've been guilty of that in the past. I used to be snobby about people liking certain things. I probably still am a little bit. But actually, you don't need to tell somebody, oh, that thing you really like is rubbish. And I'll tell you why, whether you want to listen or not.
I don't mind if people want to say and give a good reason why, but I mean, when we released that video, probably our most controversial video ever, it's got more thumbs down than thumbs up. None of the things that people gave as reasons for why it was bad were actually reasons at all. They mostly either focused around the animation on that shit. Well, they're not all going to be animated like that, so that's a really stupid. That's not a reason.
And that's subjective anyway. I mean, exactly. South Park, for example.
Yeah, South Park looks fucking rubbish, but there's 20 seasons of that now, so, you know, and a film. So, yeah, people were saying, oh, the animation's rubbish. Well, obviously they're not all going to look like that, so what's the next reason? One of the other reasons is, I shouldn't have to pay for this. Well, you live in a capitalist society, so I've got some bad news for you. Everything's going to cost money. Another one was, well, GW have taken these people out of the public sphere. Yeah, and they gave them jobs. This is a good thing for these people. They're happy with that. And then that was kind of like all the reasons. And one of the other reasons was just GW are shit. Well, then don't.
Yeah, GW are making too much money.
Yeah, I don't like them because they're
evil corporation.
Yeah.
My favourite one is a special shout out for the guy who isn't going to follow us anymore. Although I hadn't realised your conversation went on with him after I didn't update the comments. My favourite one was the guy who said, Games Workshop were awful, and I'm going to take a stand, so I'm only going to get my friend to download it and watch it.
Yeah, it's like, that's just fishing for an excuse to say, actually, I'm just a cheap wanker. And I will hold my hand up right now. I've downloaded GW things because I'm a bit of a cheap wanker. I didn't do anything with those things in the end because they were like rule books and things, and I sort of read the rules and I didn't do anything with it. But I did that because I was a cheap wanker at the time. That was the only reason. It wasn't because I thought I was making some kind of stand. And the reason there also was like, oh, well, people did this with other companies like Apple and VW. Like, yeah, but they didn't go around downloading VWs in the meantime, did they?
You wouldn't download a car.
Yeah, VJ's like put things in. Some people pay hundreds of dollars for bonsai clippers. Exactly, value is completely subjective. I don't think though, if you weigh these things up based on the average person, the average hobbyist who is interested in GW stuff, I can't see that what GW are offering isn't good value for money. If you find that you're looking at all these things, you're going, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, you're probably not the average GW hobbyist. And then it's not good money for you.
Perhaps you are.
Very true.
I don't. Oh, this is rubbish. This is rubbish. This is rubbish. Oh, but I seem to again. But I seem to have bought loads and loads of their models. But they're all rubbish. But I seem to have bought a load of them.
And now I'm going to buy 60 of them.
I hate myself more for it. I don't know. I don't know what it is. We could talk forever about that side of the hobby. It's a strange one. But yeah, I think.
You could argue with anything. Sorry, go on.
I think Warhammer Plus, it's going to be uneven. There's going to be some good bits about it. There's going to be some rubbish bits about it. It's not going to be perfect. Games Workshop, there are things I don't like about the company. I don't think that I actually haven't said it's going to be good if the storytelling is good. I don't think most of the time Games Workshop storytelling is that good. So I suspect I suspect that some of it is going to be sucky. But much in the way as I've said this already, but much of the way as I wouldn't want to watch all of Netflix, everything on Netflix. I don't want to watch everything that's on Netflix. I think there's going to be enough on here to justify the price. I mean, it literally, not quite, but it literally is the price of one coffee.
Yeah, depending on how crazy you get with your coffee, it's
very. So,
yeah, for the case of maybe at most 2 coffees, it's more than worthwhile for what I think you're going to get content.
It's one of those big coffees with all the cream and everything. So not only that, that's better for my arteries as well. If I don't have one of those, and I subscribe to Wild, so it's actually good for you. It's healthy. Another reason.
Although it encourages more to just sit down and not move, so that's a bad reason. But anyway,
Well, you could watch it on a treadmill.
Yeah,
Healthy.
True. It's true.
Yeah.
You could listen to the podcast whilst you were out walking or whatever, but then you might walk in front of a car because you're not paying attention, then you get hit, and then you die, and then it's bad again. But anyway, good and bad.
Wolfman Gaz wants to get back on point.
Oh, fine.
Which is, wasn't keen on the drawing style, but the story was enough to keep him watching it, and he was very entertained. It did have its moments. That's definitely true.
Yeah, I certainly think that one of the big mistakes GW made was putting that out. It was a particular style. It wasn't my cup of tea. There were points in it where I was looking at it thinking, I think this looks crap. But then there were other points where I thought that looks alright, and I actually found it quite funny. Yeah, Pokemon, that's a good example actually. It is a bit like that style in some places, Pokemon, where everything's just static and the person's mouth just moves. And it doesn't even move in time with what they're saying. There's no lip sync going on or anything like that. And there were bits like that where I thought, this is a bit shit. But at the same time, I can sit there and say, okay, this wasn't exactly what I wanted. It was vaguely entertaining for 20 minutes, which, I mean, what can you ask for more from an animation these days? And I know that there's other better stuff coming that I'm going to prefer to watch. A lot of people got hung up on that episode, I think. They were looking at it, they were going, this is crap, it's all going to be crap, it's crap Dave, it's all crap Dave, everything's crap Dave. And, you know, that's where they stopped. It's
even quite a lot of episodes of Red Dwarf are crap as well, actually. You go back and watch it now.
To be honest, some of it's dire.
Yeah.
But, you know, there were those golden episodes that you're never going to forget, that you're always going to say were brilliant, and, you know, they didn't cost anything apart from what people paid on their BBC licence way back when, so...
Yeah.
And I just feel like nobody's given a particularly good reason as yet to say why. You've made a lot of enemies now with the Red Dwarf comment, Robin. Nobody's given me a really good reason to say this isn't worth the money because of these valid reasons. They're all very subjective or just based on very personal, reactive, emotive subjects, none of which are particularly good reasons.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. I didn't mean it. I just said it didn't mean it at the moment. And some of those episodes are my favourite bits of TV. So I think it's when you go back and watch it and you have this memory of how amazing it was, and you watch it one and you,
or you watch an episode and there's the episode about how Rimmer talks about how he's polished the tips of his shoes so he can basically use it as a reflective surface to look up women's skirts. Like, no, that's not acceptable.
Yeah, that's not okay anymore.
No. It wasn't okay then, really, but everyone just
said
it.
No, that's
definitely
true.
not okay now.
I happened to click on a. There was a. I don't know what I started watching, but it was YouTube was doing its algorithm thing, and it showed up Monty Python doing the communists chat show thing, and he starts asking questions about football. But it had Terry Gilliam, I think it is, playing Mao Zedong. It's like. No.
little on the nose now. Don't really think you can do that. But I mean, like Morph said, maybe they put out that Hammer and Bolter style one to show that it's not going to be a Started style 3D stuff, because maybe that is a bit of a turn off for some people. They want something a bit more easy to watch and a little more light-hearted. And you know, all in, you know, multiple different styles. That's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. They've got to appeal to a range of people, and there were people out there who loved it. There were loads of comments, and admittedly it was on a lot of the comments I saw were on the Games Workshop Facebook page. I don't know how much they curate those, whether they delete the ones that say it's crap, but many of the comments, and a lot of comments we had on the video, said how much they enjoyed,
and they hoped everything else was like at a similar level.
It was great. It was everything about orcs for them. So you know, it's like everything in life, it's horses for courses, isn't it? Or orcs for courses.
Orcs. Well done, sir. Well done.
It was, you know, I mean, I didn't particularly enjoy it. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't, you know. But lots of people did, and that's great, because obviously the more people who enjoy the content, the better.
I enjoyed watching it because it reminded me of the whole Yarrick Gazgul thing back when I was in my teens, and all that was first kicking off. It reminded me of that. It's a bit like that White Dwarf episode, the White Dwarf magazine that has the battle report in that I love, that has Ragnar, Blackmane and Gazgul in for the first time. If you actually go back and reread that now and look at it, it's a bit bad in places. Is some of the quality and stuff is
like Red Dwarf.
It is a bit like that, but you know what? It's always going to be a bit of my childhood and my history, and I'm always going to love it. So.
Well, you bought me, didn't you? You bought me for my Christmas present.
I did. Not one, but two White Dwarfs.
White Dwarf 82. I don't know whether they'll go this far back in the archive, but these are my favourite issues. And
I treat them well.
I think there's a problem with archive of White Dwarf. I was going to say this earlier, actually, I got sidetracked. Was they don't age that well, do they? Because you might have an old White Dwarf issue, but if it's from 2 editions of the game ago, it doesn't age that well.
Yeah. So it's definitely a snapshot.
I think the archive is of limited use, but this issue here was my favourite ever issue. I can't believe what good condition this is in, Pete.
They are good, aren't they?
Because mine was absolutely wrecked because I used it over and over again and read it over and over again because I'm really going off tangent here, but because somewhere in here there was talk amongst yourselves. But ironically, I've just seen something about Orcish society. A study of Orcish society, the naked orc.
Yeah. I mean, Morph points out that he wasn't a massive fan of the Astarte stuff. It was great animation, or he says good animation, zero story. I mean, when you actually put all 5 episodes together, it was only about 10 minutes of video or something like that. So you didn't get a lot out of it. It was mostly Space Marines arrive on bars, shoot some people, go down, kill those 2 psycho blokes, and then get teleported to another world. And that was kind of like it. We haven't really had anything as yet. Wayne Catlin says he's a bit late. What do we think of Warhammer Plus? I think overall, our opinion is if the stuff that they're showing is the kind of stuff you'll be interested in, and I think for anybody who's mildly serious on GW hobby stuff, there's going to be something in there for you. I think it's not bad value for money, or we don't think it's bad value for money. The acid test, as with all these things, will be how they support it over the coming year. If their support over the coming year sucks, then yeah, anybody who's paid money up front might feel a bit robbed, and genuinely so. I think if you pay your money up front and you get a year, that gets you 10, you only pay 10 months worth, and you get the £10 voucher back. For me, that makes it worthwhile. I think even if the rest of the support for the year is a bit lacking, then maybe it's something that don't get rid of. But obviously, the more people who do pay, the more money GW get in from it, and the more they're going to reinvest in it, and the more they're going to do with it. So in that way, I think there's a lot to be had from it still.
Yeah, Wayne said he believes Astartes has a lot of subtle story hidden in the imagery. He didn't know the lore well enough to understand it. No, that would have passed me by. I didn't know that.
There were some bits where
I need non-subtle imagery, so maybe I did need the old Bale Eye.
There was a few bits in there where like when they find that orb to start with, I completely missed that the orb that the Psyker had was like talking to the orb that the other Space Marines had found, and that at some points there's some booming sort of noises and there's actually voices in it. I didn't even hear that. And right. I ended up finding it on Google, and someone said, "Oh, the voices say these things." I'm like, I never got that, and I had to really investigate some of it to really get some of that. I wasn't very familiar with some of it, and I was like, okay, once I read all this, fine. But I do think that maybe, like you said, sometimes it comes down to storytelling. Whilst the animation was fantastic, the storytelling was not obvious enough in some ways for people to get a lot of the things going on.
I mean, that would be a huge project though, to get a good story in and do that all on your own. Would be enormous project. Wayne Catlin is signing up for 12 months, no hesitation, so he thinks it's good value. I just want to talk about this. My White Dwarf. White Dwarf 53 had this in it, which was by I did realise this subsequently, but it's written by Joe Deaver, and it is a Warhammer adventure for doing the Battle of the Pelennor Field, so a Warhammer scenario with all the stats, and it has the stats. So I've had it up on my camera. I realise you can't see it in the cut out. I hadn't realised that, but it has all the stats for like Faramir and Aragorn and the Nazgul and everything, and I absolutely loved that. And I played that on my 15th birthday. All my friends over and we played it. At the end of the day, we had pizza, and so that is my favourite issue of White Dwarf. So there you go. Speaking of which, I wonder if on Warhammer Plus, whether they'll have, and I suspect they don't, whether they have any opportunity to talk about Middle Earth and their Middle Earth game.
That's good. Well, they haven't. I mean, they're not going to be able to talk too much about the general lore, are they?
Oh, I don't know. No, probably not. Probably not. But they could talk about the process. It'd be interesting. I would watch that.
Gaz Monster One says that was his first White Dwarf. There you go. Right.
What, White Dwarf 53? Mine was 60, but I bought back issues in shops and found that one. I think I bought this specifically because it had the Pelennor Fields, and I was big into Lord of the Rings. But yeah, I think the earliest one I've got is 40.
So yeah, I think overall, I think the behind the scenes stuff Wayne Catlin says would be really interesting. I agree. I'd quite like to see some more behind the scenes stuff. I think people want to see. I know I want to see more of the company that is GW and the stuff that goes on. I want to see the how they make the models. I'm a bit of a nerd like that. I'd love to see all that stuff in action. I know lots of people have seen that kind of stuff. I'd like to see how they put their spin on all that kind of stuff as well. I know I always love seeing the interviews with people like Joe Johnson and people like that, and I would just love to get that glimpse inside the world of GW.
Yeah, I suspect they'll be quite guarded, so I suspect we won't see very much of that, but I would love that. I would think that would be good if it was done well. VJ's hoping he gets some Xenos on Xenos action in the animation. That would be good. It'd be quite nice to not have everything filtered through the Warhammer community marketing lens and actually do some stuff beyond that would be good.
Tau fleshed out in animations, that would be quite cool. Some more general stuff around how these people exist outside of war zones would be quite nice to see. And also see things from the inherently the bad guy's point of view, like seeing the Necrons or the Nids, the most inhuman of like the Xenos races, how they deal with things, or even like with the traitor Marines, showing something from their point of view where they feel, maybe showing how they felt betrayed by the Emperor, and how they still feel betrayed all these 10,000 years later, all that kind of stuff. That kind of thing they could really flesh out and give a lot of stuff to, and obviously everything they do is official.
I'm really looking forward to a whole series about the evolution of an introduction of female Space Marines.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess that would be a surefire way to completely eliminate a certain portion of the community. That might not be a bad thing.
Yeah, they should have just led with that. This is our first animation. Good about female Space Marines.
So, bam! The internet implodes with rage, and there's just mild-mannered, average people left going, "All right then, I guess."
Yep.
I'm not going to buy any, but you know what? If you want to buy it, absolutely fine. Go for it.
The Eldar versus Necron Wars. Yeah, all that stuff would be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the Necrons, they were around 60 million years ago. That's quite a while. I mean, what's happened in the meantime? So, for me, still, I haven't seen any really good arguments online to say, don't go for it. Obviously, it's a hobby thing, so if you don't want to buy it, you don't have to. None of it's must-have stuff on there. But I haven't seen a really good argument anywhere online that says it's not good value for money.
Nope. No, I don't think so. I think so. As long as the animations are as good as we hope they are.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd be disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of books out there they've done that are quite popular. I'd quite like to see. Obviously, they're doing the Eisenhorn trilogy, but there's other things as well. Like there's the Tanith series and stuff like that, which could be quite cool, and that feeds on the old styles. But this is all 40k stuff. They could still go back to the AOS stuff and, the birth of Sigmar and, the creation of Nagash and all that kind of stuff, and really go into the old, back into the old lore there. So.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff, and obviously the Age of Sigmar universe is pretty young, so they can branch out, get some good Nurgle animation.
Yeah,
good fun.
And Gotrek, they could do a series on Gotrek.
Yeah,
that would be
with Brian Blessed.
Oh yeah, they better move faster than that. I don't know how much longer he's got.
No, I don't know how old he is. Yeah. Get Brian Blessed back on the mic. Yeah, exactly.
The thing is with Brian Blessed, I think every time Death turns up to take him, he just shouts at him and Death runs away again.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Anyway, I think that kind of. I don't think we're not saying anything new now. We're just repeating ourselves. So I think that probably.
Yes, I think we probably. It's 11 o'clock anyway, so it is kind of time to I'll wrap things up, but we are very fortunate, and we will say we are very fortunate. We are going to get a month free to look at this, so we will be bringing you content about what we've seen. If you haven't picked it up yet, what we see, what we think of it, whether we think it's worth it. Because I guess in another month's time you'll have a better idea of whether the offering is worth it. Yeah. We'll go from there, and Wayne will be joining us because he, as he's already said, he's already signing up for definite, so he'll be very excited. So hopefully, Wayne, you'll be along for these reviews as well, and you can chip in with what you thought of stuff. And I'm really hoping Pete and I can watch all the content. I mean, it shouldn't be too much to start off with, which is good for me because I'm not too much catching up, and then feedback what we thought of it.
Yep.
And hopefully having you lovely guys, only 12 of you now, we've obviously worn you all out. But thank you very much for watching as per usual.
Has it? Can people still hear us now?
How's the audio gone, everyone?
I'm not sure what
my lights went out outside, but they're on a timer, so that's not that.
Hopefully people can still hear it.
No, it says the audio's gone.
Well, it's like 30 seconds behind.
Oh no, Pete says it's fine in Australia.
Oh, it's back. I don't know what happened there. Don't know what happened, sorry about that. But anyway, if you are watching this later on down the line, or if you have watched this all the way through, then do thank you very much.
We're allegedly back, Wayne.
We are, allegedly says back, so if you are watching this later on, whatever, if you've got a good reason, do let us know what it is. So far, I don't think there's a bad reason for picking this up. The only bad reason I can think of for getting this right now is I hate GW, I hate everything they do and everything they stand for, I don't like any of their products, and I'm buying it anyway. That's a pretty bad reason. I can't think of another one though.
I'm going to find this video and snip that cut out of you saying you hate all their products and just use it out of context at some point.
Pete says he hates GW. There we go. And a record.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for listening. Have a good week wherever you are. Stay safe. The world seems to be going a bit mad again, so stay safe, everybody. Particularly those of you down under. Yep. I know you're locked in and what have you. A lot of you are. So take care, and we'll see you soon on the Angels of Sigmar.